Hey everybody, Rowan Dredge here. Welcome to 4 Leaders TV. I am very, very grateful to have your time and attention, either live or tracking this after the event. It's a really exciting conversation that I'm having today with Julia Steele. She is the founder of Vid19 Con, and it's an extraordinary story. And I think we're going to really, really enjoy unpacking it. Before I bring Julia in, and we've been having a chat off camera, and she's really looking forward to it as well. I want to let you know that my colleague, my business partner, and I, Mike Hardy, are launching a virtual leadership accelerator program over the next month. And it's a 6-month program with a couple of hours of training in week 1, hour of coaching, group coaching in week 3. You're able to do it online, virtually. And we just want to let you know that if you'd love to book a call with us to unpack what it is that this is about and how it might fit you and fit your organization and purpose, we'd love to have that conversation with you. And again, Julia Steele, good friend of mine through the Thought Leaders Business School community, fantastic lady, incredibly strong on resilience and understanding how to access power, courage, and confidence. And this story is actually a really good example of that. So let me bring Julia in, and really look forward to having her with us today. Hey, Julia, great to have you here.
How are you? So great to be here.
I'm just delighted that you're with us. And right from the get-go, this conference was by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I advertised, promoted the fact that we were having it on LinkedIn. I so desperately want to share the numbers, but can you just rattle off the statistics for us right at the start? Because they're things that we dream about.
Yeah, it's a little bit mad if I think about it, but yes, a 19-day conference. That's 19 for people that might be a little bit perplexed on, why 19. 172 speakers, so we pretty much ran from 9 o'clock in the morning till in some cases 9 o'clock at night. We had 15,000 people join, 32 countries, and about 250,000 minutes of content over the 19 days were watched. So yeah. Small idea, big outcome, but really, really pleased with how it went and everyone that contributed and joined as well.
And the way that we actually talked about this conversation is the 1 in 100 idea that actually worked. And that came from a conversation you had with Cameron Schwab, our mutual friend and thought leader. And he said that 100 people would have had the idea, but only one went and did it. So I want you just to back up a little bit. Like, when did the idea come to you? How did it sort of formulate and think about it? And then you go, wow, this could actually work. I mean, obviously we're talking pandemic, we're talking global lockdowns, all these sorts of things. Tell us the where did the idea come from story.
Yeah, so it was Friday the 13th of March, ironically, and I went out for dinner with a couple of friends. Now, for Friday the 13th of March was the Friday before we started to talk about level 3 lockdown here in Australia. And I went out for dinner with a couple of friends and who also run their own businesses, and we were all talking about how we're starting to see our customers start to turn off speaking events and training events and starting to talk about sending their people home. And so through this conversation with a couple of friends, Louisa Koppel and Mel Kettle, we started to talk about what can we...
Great girls, yeah.
Great women. And kind of left dinner going, there's going to be a whole lot of people that need our help more than ever. There's going to be a whole lot of speakers that are suddenly available, because their stages and their conference centres were starting to close. I thought, what can I do? I got home and went to bed, and I know exactly what time it was because I went and plugged the note in my phone. 12:42 a.m. I had this idea of running this big event, and for people that don't know me, I've got a project management background, and it would have been very easy for me to sort of say, I'm going to run this conference and I'm going to organize it 30 days in the future, and I'm going to go and find everyone and plan the living daylights out of it. But I actually said I'm going to start it in 3 days. And so between the Friday and the Wednesday, well, that day one of vid was on Wednesday the 18th of March.
That is absolutely incredible, and how the speed you went to market. So what I absolutely love about a couple of these things is, and they are incredible women, the girls that you talked about, and there's this idea of sharpening your thinking and creating a sense of like, well, why not? You know, who says we can't is the phrase I use with my giant worldwide partners. And this idea that you actually went against the grain to some of your training as well. Like this was the speed to execution, or the speed to market was quite significant. But before we talk about how that actually worked, this was in response to a problem. And the problem was a whole stack of people have lost their platform. And what could we do about it as a result? So how did you get clear on the problem you were solving? Because people in our role, I mean, we get paid to solve problems and we get paid to add value. How did that become even clearer for you along the way, or at speed?
I think if you look at any idea or any problem you're trying to solve, there's certain things that are sort of mandatory and some are nice to have. And so I sort of sat down on the Saturday morning and said, right, what do I actually need to make this work? And this was sort of what's the low fidelity version of this conference, or EP if you're in the tech space. And it really was, I need some speakers, I need a platform for them to speak on, which we used Zoom, and I need a way of getting the conference out to people, to as many people as I can, as I possibly can. Now that was that's what I did. So even though it was a big conference, big outcome, it was really quite simple. And if there's sort of one message I'd sort of leave people with, just, you know, to start, is it's really easy to take a big idea and then try and make it bigger. Whereas actually what made vid work was it was a big idea that I just kept really simple. I didn't stream it on YouTube. I didn't go and get AV specialists to come in and produce it for me. I didn't put it on Facebook. It was just, this is what it is. And if it serves you, it's free. Come and join.
So I found that the uptake was rapid, and in a way it's sort of a case study in the ultimate crowdsourcing, because you've got 172 speakers. I was one of them, and a whole bunch of friends again who posted on LinkedIn posts and various other social platforms today. They said, I was there, you know, I spoke at that, and we all put our hand up really fast. And that's one thing. And everyone was delighted to be able to do that. And we were delighted that you created that opportunity. The other side of it, again, ultimate crowdsourcing, was the number of people that registered. So in a way, you had 172 people advertising the conference. Can you just unpack a little bit about what you saw happen before your eyes around crowdsourcing and engagement and shares and people registering and signing up? Like, what did you see happen? Because it's incredible in the multiplier effect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, every speaker that came, we gave the social media stuff too. So I know you promoted it in your list, and as I said, 171 speakers all promoted it in their list. So that was a really easy way of getting the idea out to as many people as possible. So even if people didn't know me, they knew you. But then what happened probably around day 2 or day 3 of the conference is that people came to the sessions and then they started to tell their friends about it and their colleagues about it. So I started to see lots of people registering from the same organizations. I started to see people from different countries starting to join, and we had a good mix of speakers. So Australia, New Zealand, some speakers from the States, Europe as well. And just as the speaker list grew, obviously the participants grew, and the geography of it came with it. But the thing that worked most is that, I mean, we're both privileged to know some amazing speakers, and the only brief I gave them was, if you were at home right now, what would you want to hear? And so we covered a really broad cross section of topics. So leadership, mental health and well-being, so a lot of things on resilience and managing stress. We had some left field business sort of topics for people that were suddenly wanted to put their business onto YouTube. So I didn't do the usual sort of conference. This is what the conference theme is. The theme was kind of set for us, right, in the world, thanks to COVID. And yeah, so there was lots of reasons for people to keep coming back. And some people watched over 100 sessions, which still sort of blows my mind.
It's absolutely incredible. I mean, I'm still in conversations with people that attended the session I spoke at, that you provided the platform for people to be able to do as well. So I get that you had a great sense of confidence around the project management side of it, but at the same time, like anything that has to do with your art, anything that has to do with your name on it, you always have this sense of wow, is it going to be any good, or is anybody going to turn up? I remember asking our friend Shane Hatton, when he wrote his book, which is now an award-winning book, I said, at any point, Shane, did you think like it wasn't going all that well? He goes, all the time. And I'm like, this is crazy, because I look at him and I think you cannot possibly doubt. And I think what happens now, we look on the flip side of the statistics, and we look on the flip side of the outcomes that the COVID-19 got. We go, oh, Julia Steele, she is an authority in this area. So I want you to just to take us to the darker nights, the wondering if, the conversations with your partner, the walks around the block, the ringing up Mel and Louisa and saying, hey, what have I got myself into? Because where I want to head with this is, this took courage to put yourself out there, because it was the courage to risk failure. And I just want to unpack that journey for everyone that's going to be listening to this conversation.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot in that. So I'll try and break it down. So the beforehand, the courage piece. So I break courage down into two things. One is the taking action, like the actual decision to take action, and then the second bit is actually the strength to see it through. Like, we all have great ideas. Like, we all decide that we're going to go to the gym on New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day, we're a bit hungover and we don't have the strength to go, well, maybe that's me. But there's this real, I'm really interested in this courage versus strength. And it would be very easy for me to say, 19 days is a bit batshit. I'm just going to do 3 days, or I'm just going to do 1 day and see how it goes. It would have been very easy for me to walk back. I did say to my husband that the morning after I had the idea that, you've got 5 minutes to talk me out of this. And his advice was, given his about 3 months from being a lawyer, was just make sure reputationally I don't do anything stupid. And I'm quite privileged to know, as I said before, great speakers. One of the reasons I stayed away from things like YouTube and Facebook and did a lot of the promotion through LinkedIn was because it's a professional network, and therefore I had some level of certainty that the company we keep, we talk about this all the time, a reasonable level of certainty that the people that would join wouldn't be heckling from the stands, and that everyone was actually supportive of what we were doing. The dark nights, and there were a lot of dark nights, given we didn't finish until 9 or 10 o'clock, literally. A lot of people said, how did I do 19 days? And to be honest, given that we were all in lockdown, it was actually really nice to have something to get up and do every morning. Like, it gave me something to focus on. But I think the real thing was starting to see the difference it was making. So when you're getting, even it doesn't matter how tired you are, to get a message from someone and say, I was just on this session with Dr. Paul Wood, it blew my mind, or I joined Chris Helder's session and it gave me the lift that I was looking for right now. One message was, I'm in hospital at the moment. I can't see my family, so you're giving me a connection to the world. All of those sorts of messages are what kept it going. And because I kept the text simple, a lot of that stress was removed. Whereas, as I said before, I think a lot of us have a habit of making small ideas bigger. Like, we'll throw more ideas on top of ideas on top of ideas, and then we actually make it too hard and too complex. So by keeping it simple, it removed a lot of the stress.
So there's two things I want to pick up on that. One is the commitment to seeing something through, that idea of sustaining courage, not just initiating it. So just how did you experience that as you lent in? I mean, the first thing I'm hearing is that you got good feedback early on, and you're thinking, wow, this is actually helping people. So tell me about day 12 and day 15 and these sorts of commitments. How did you actually continue to go, I'm going to lean into this, I'm going to keep leveraging, and I'm going to keep serving the people that are coming?
I think the biggest thing is seeing the bigger picture. So yes, it was a conference, but it wasn't about the conference. It was actually about the people that were joining the conference, the help that they needed, as I said before. The making sure that I got help from the people that I needed when I needed it. So Tracy Azard is my mentor, and she sort of ran on my right shoulder a few times, just going, oh, you need to be thinking about how this fits into your business. So she was sort of giving me the business strategic advice. So it wasn't just a conference. How could people understand that this great thing was attached to me? And then I had Emma Foster, who does a lot of my social media. She was sort of, I found out and got support from a lot of people. And then, Louisa Koppel, who I mentioned before, she offered to reach out and get some media support for this as well. And so I sort of focused on what I needed to do, which was the hosting, the finding the speakers, making sure that the events worked. Emma was focusing on promoting it as much as possible. And then just some great friends and peers who just sort of kept an eye on things while I was head down bum up running towards day 19.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I just want to go granular for a minute on the execution piece. So you hosted all of it.
Yes.
You were there. You introduced speakers for that whole period of time. Is that right?
Yep.
So that's really significant. You literally put your money, as in the time where your mouth is when it came to that.
Yep.
Now, just for the execution side of things, because this is just a techo granular one, it was a very seamless technological experience. It was a very clean technological experience. So for those of us that have questions around that sort of back end part of it, what is it that you're able to share with us that kept it so clean? Because there have been 2 or 3 versions of this subsequent to the success, but none have been as easy to engage and as clean and as simple, as you keep saying, as Vid-19 was. So from a tech perspective, what can you tell us about how that got executed?
So I'll give you the participant experience, and then I'll give you the host experience. So the participants,
absolutely.
The participants basically had a single web page to go to. All of the sessions were there, and they just registered for the ones that they want in the same way that you would register for any other webinar. Webinars were all scheduled in Zoom. I went with the webinar options, so if people didn't feel obliged to have their cameras turned on, if they wanted to sit and listen to it while they were making dinner or walking their dog or sitting in meetings, they didn't feel like they needed to be all make-upped up and sitting here like I am, ready to sort of engage with this conference. And so that was that side of things. And then the speakers got their direct speaker link. They joined 5 minutes before, and the cycle was pretty much on the hour a new session would start. It would run for 40 to 45 minutes. That would give me 5 or 10 minutes to then make sure that the next speaker was good to go, and then then the next session would start. And the whole thing was sort of 3 hours on, 1 hour off. So I took 12 to 1 off for lunch. Took dinner time off so I could still sit down with the family. My husband cooked probably more than I did over that period, but we got very good at making dinner in less than an hour, because that's what the break break was. And then the rationale for running. So I did some sessions at 7 in the morning and some sessions through to 9 o'clock at night, and we had quite a lot of people join from New Zealand and the West Coast and other outside of Australia and New Zealand as well. But yeah, the tech was exactly, my tech's actually had an upgrade since vid. It was literally just the webcam on my Mac, an iPad, and a reasonably reliable NBN connection. So it worked well because it was simple.
And for the people listening into this conversation live or afterwards, it was a very clean experience. So the thing that I'm wanting to also point out is that the registration process was clean and simple. The website was clean and simple. It was very clear. And I think that the challenge in these things is you can easily get overcomplicated. But again, if we come back to the initial idea that you talked about with Linda and Mel, was there's a whole lot of people without a platform and there's a whole lot of people disconnected. So the value of this experience was that we solved the problem and we actually asked people to join in valuable connective experiences, which I think was just delightful. Yeah. So as you reflect now on that process, and I want to get to the bigger ideas of what leaders do when we're leaning into uncertainty, when we're leaning into disconnection. I want to get to that after this part of the conversation. As you reflect on those experiences now, how has this changed your perspective and changed your mindset and changed your thinking around what's possible in this space? Because they are, as I said in my post, they're numbers to dream about. 15,000 participants. This is 250,000 minutes watched, 32 countries. I mean, and you didn't leave home.
Yes.
This is astonishing, when it comes to this sort of stuff. And so as you're reflecting on that as a thought leader, as a business owner, as somebody that's leveraging and giving your expertise to the corporate world, what have you learned and how are you different?
So I think, I'm not dissimilar to you, that most of my business before COVID and before Vid-19, most of my clients were in Melbourne. I did some work in Sydney. The Vid platform and the technology means that I can now go anywhere. I'm speaking on a panel at 3:00 in the morning on Saturday at an event in the States. Now, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, that would have either not been on my list of things to speak at, or would have involved jumping on a plane, crossing the Pacific. So there's an adaptability or an opportunity in the world that we're in now to take what we would traditionally do and change it in some way. And it doesn't have to be this enormous pivot, like this sense that we're shifting our entire world. This is just, all I did was do what I normally do, and put it in a form that was virtual. So that was the first thing. I think the second part is there's a big difference between training a room of 12 to 20 people, which is what my core business was, to training and coaching, to reaching 15,000 people. And what it's done is open my eyes to just how many people need help, want help, are looking for help, and it doesn't have to be big, grandiose outcomes. It can just be little things make a big difference. And I think for where we are now, particularly in Melbourne, where we're now in the second round of lockdown, I think it's certainly starting to feel like we're going to be here for not a few months like we were in ISO, that this is actually going to be probably the rest of the year, if not into next year. So my mindset is sort of I've noticed it's shifted in this second round of lockdown, in that I need to think about how this is going to be the way it's going to be for some time, and I need to adjust to do that and help other people adjust to it as well. And as our employees start to get exhausted from working from home and are missing the social connection, and our cultures of our organisations start to degrade because people haven't been together for weeks and months, that we need to start to think about as leaders, how do we find these ideas that are going to re-energise some of what we're doing.
I think, and to be on the other side of this experience and have that kind of confidence, you've not only got the confidence to know that it works, you've also got the confidence to be able to look for what problem you're solving. Because I think this is the bit that we can't miss in the success of this experience, and that is it brought people with a narrative, something to say, together with people looking for something to hear. And I think that was a really fantastic sort of fortuitous thing that you did, but you also pulled it off, and I congratulate you for that very much so. So well done on that particular experience.
Just sprung to mind as well, and probably the privilege of running your own business is that you can make decisions and move quite quickly because you're in charge. But having been in corporate for 20 years, I know that even the simplest ideas sort of get killed off because they've got to go through a process. There's got to be funding. There's got to be some sort of approval. But the whole of Vid-19, the whole 19 days cost me less than $1,000, right? So it's big idea again, small. Keep it small.
Well, yes, perhaps not $1,000, but then you were there for the 19 days, right? 171 speakers yourself, finishing with bubblies at the end, and so there is a fair bit of work time involved from you, and you really sustained that brilliantly all the way through. So let's talk about the bigger ideas of what leaders do in the face of uncertainty, what leaders do in the face of this kind of ambiguity that we're experiencing. Because as we are having this conversation, Victoria is Melbourne and Greater Melbourne is in lockdown version 2. People are keeping their eyes on parts of Australia, and there are other parts of the world that haven't responded to or been able to navigate COVID-19 as well as they'd hoped. Leaders are working out that this is a lot more of a marathon than a sprint. What is it that you would be saying to us about leaning into uncertainty, about embracing the kind of challenge that feels perhaps insurmountable at times, that we're waking up every day and we've got more I don't know answers than, hey, let's do this answers? Again, with your experience in your project management, with your experience in your practice, with your experience through the conference, what is it that you'd be calling us up to as leaders to be facing this kind of work head on?
I think there's, I talk about a lot of courage and a lot of bravery and strength, as you said in the intro. And I find right now, depending on where you are in the world, there's different levels of fear in terms of where we are and where we've been. And that fear is, can be quite paralyzing. People have, shut their businesses. We've heard words like hibernation, that we're, stopping projects, that we're turning investment off. And that's a control response, right? It's a natural sort of contraction to sort of be literally like a turtle going into its shell. And then we sort of start to stick our head back out of the shell and say, okay, well, what can we do? And the courage side of things is about taking action, and the strength then is seeing it through. And I give all of my clients sort of six steps, and the first 3 of them are what's the catalyst, and we've got a very obvious catalyst right now in COVID that's forcing us to change in ways that we weren't expecting to. But it's creating uncertainty, and there's a bit of a mindset shift that I think we can embrace, which is we're not uncertain, the situation is. And if you think about everything, I'm in the same office that I'm normally in, the certainty and I'm using the same, all of that is still the same. What is different is outside on the street. And the second thing then is to actually get clarity on what we can and can't do. I was very clear on the 13th of March that most of my face-to-face work was going to disappear. So my mind went to what can I do? And then the third one is, okay, well, what's the courage? What are the steps I can take? So the action. And it would have been very easy for me to over-engineer it, but it was, okay, the action, the courage steps are, I need to reach out to some speakers and ask if they want to be involved. As soon as I got about 3 days worth, I was like, yeah, okay, this is going to work because I've got 3 days. If I can get 3 days, I can get 6. I've got a background in computer science, so the website was pretty easy. I am a nerd. I can sit and program, so the website was done myself. And then, yeah, as I said earlier, just
I knew it. I knew there was a secret weapon in that experience. It was so good, better than anything else I've seen. I think, yes, we need a computer science nerd on our team.
Yes. And then, reaching out to people. So, taking the action. Who are the people that reaching out to the people that gave me energy? And it doesn't matter whether you run your own business or you're in a business. We all know who the people are that lift us up and push us forward, and rather than pushing us back. And then the commitment side of things is just going, what's next. And there were a few times where the uncertainty sort of kicked back in. About day 4 or 5, I had a message from someone that said, do you realize most of your speakers are white? And I thought I was doing a pretty good job because most of my speakers, I think I'd had more female speakers than men, so I thought I was doing pretty well. But about day 5, someone reached out and said most of your speakers are white. Where's the racial, cultural diversity? So that was okay. Yeah, I hadn't seen that, but thank you, Chantel Thompson, for doing that. And she then came and speak on that. Other people of colour came and joined as well. So
wow.
That could have easily been a wobble that sent things off course. But it's just okay. I'm uncertain. What's the catalyst? How can I get clear on what I want to do and what are the actions that I need to take? And it's works every time. So get those steps. I'll send them through to you. You can post them with the video.
Absolutely, let's do that. I think and also if you let's just unpack that as a case study. Like, credit to the person who actually spoke up. Credit to the person who said, "Hey, this is a great thing that you're doing, and here's a way of it being even greater." I learned something 12 or 18 months ago that calling up is better than calling out. And someone that actually lent into you and lent into the opportunity and said, "Hey, have you noticed?" Because you probably hadn't, because you were busy running a conference that was consuming all your time. And it wasn't that you wanted to, it just was. And so and then the fact that you can pivot on that and fix it in a way or respond to it is a wonderful thing. And so I really, again, credit you and the people that lean into making it even better.
Yeah.
So I'm a thought leader, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a senior manager, and I'm listening to the conversation that we're having right now. What is it that you would want to say to them to be thinking about in the context of their leadership, their confidence and courage, handling uncertainty over the next 6 to 12 months or so? If you were to call us up at this point in time, what would you say to us?
I think it's very easy for us all to get stuck. I've faced into this myself, not just through the conference, but in the context of my business. So, progress is one of the biggest motivators on the planet, right? When we feel like we're moving forward, we feel like that momentum creates more energy and we keep going. And so I think regardless of you're running a business, an entrepreneur, a thought leader, I would be grabbing the ideas that come to you, right? And they come to us all. Like I've never heard anyone say I don't have any ideas. We all have them. What some of us do is that we shut those ideas away and we say it's never going to work, or I don't know how, or I don't have the skills. But chances are, if you don't, someone you know will know. And so I would, grab hold of the ideas in the shower, grab hold of the ideas that come to you in the middle of the night. And then when you wake up in the morning, go, right, what can I do? How can I do this in a simpler way? And be free with the outcome. Yeah. I could have asked people if they wanted to be part of VID, and they might have turned around and said no. What the worst that would have happened was that it didn't go ahead, but at least I tried. And it was, rather than going, oh, it's never going to work, I'm not even going to ask. So yeah, I would, yeah, I would just grab hold of the ideas and just go, how can I get this and test this and see if it works, as simple as possible. Don't sit on it for a month and then figure it out.
Look, the thing that I've been hearing you say as a refrain all the way through is you were the one with the idea, you were the one with the courage to initiate it, but there are those handful of people that you've named already that you lent into and that supported you along the way. And I think if we were to take the camera back, Julia, and say, okay, how is that a model for us moving forward? In uncertainty, no leader has the right answer. We don't have the right answer. We have the opportunity to try something, test it, get feedback, ask for somebody to make it even better, be careful not to weaponize, lean into something we might not be seeing. All of these things I'm hearing you unpacked, experienced, and navigated your way through with VidCon as an example, but they're all things that we need to be doing as leaders moving forward. And so I'm incredibly appreciative of that story. Knowing that people will want to get hold of you and talk to you a bit more about your expertise, what is it that you actually do for organizations and leaders, and how can people get a hold of you?
So yeah, I work with organizations of all sizes on finding the strength they need to change. So if you're facing into resistance, if you're feeling exhausted about what to do next, if you are, trying to move to a place that's new, whatever new means for you, that's what I am passionate about, and particularly how do I help the people. I'm a big believer that in order to change organizations, we have to first be willing to change ourselves, and so that's my joy. And the more I can help people change, and in turn make their organizations change, the happier I am.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fantastic. Go on.
As I say, people want to read more, my website's at the bottom of my screen, juliasteele.com. Also happy to be connected on LinkedIn, Twitter, Insta, all of the usual places that we hang out. Yeah,
that's so good. And I'd be encouraging you to be looking out and looking up, Julia, for this as well. But I hope this has been useful to you, and it's certainly a conversation I've looked forward to having with you, Julia. So thank you so much. Just a reminder that we are launching our Leadership Accelerator. If that's of interest, we'd invite you to contact myself directly about that. Julia, thank you so much for your time. We just appreciate it, and look forward to all of the support and encouragement and strength that you're going to bring to leaders, teams, and organizations. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Rowan.